Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hello and welcome back to Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, the podcast that talks about books and writing and stuff. And today we're talking with Kaj Hasselriis. He's in Winnipeg. We're in somewhere in Saskatchewan. And we're talking about a project that Kaj has just completed and released. It's called Kamala in Canada. And it's, I'll call it a picture book. And it's in English and French, so you can learn yourself a language at the same time as reading it. Kaj Hasselriis, thank you very much for being with us, and we'll jump right in. Why a book about Kamala Harris?
Well, Kamala Harris is someone that definitely should be celebrated right now, I think, and is being celebrated. Not just in the United States, but also here in Canada and around the world. She's done something that no other woman has ever done before, which is become Vice President of the United States. No Black woman has ever done it. No South Asian woman has ever done it. So she's quite a historic figure. So, I've created this comic book called Kamala in Canada that tells the true story of Kamala Harris's childhood in Montreal. Because, fun fact, she actually lived in Montreal from the ages of 12 to 17 when she graduated high school.
So I understand, Kaj, that Kamala Harris came from California to Quebec at the age of 12, like you say. Now, that age is kind of a tricky one. If something disruptive happens in your life around that age, it could be could have strange effects later on. So how do you think Kamala reacted to being moved from, as it says right in the book, sunny California to Quebec?
Oh, there is no doubt about it that the ages between 12 and 17 are extremely formative for anyone, I think, and they certainly were for Kamala Harris. And as the story goes in the book, no, she wasn't very happy to be plucked from her sunny home in California at the age of 12 to move with her mother and her younger sister to Montreal when her mother scored a job there, because it meant having to get used to a new country, a new culture, a new language. She had to learn French at school. She also moved right in the middle of winter in the month of February, so we currently know what that's like. And it was quite disruptive for her, but she made the most of it. She and her mom and her younger sister lived in an apartment complex, and when summer hit, Kamala loved playing soccer there with the other kids until the landlord of the building tried to ban soccer playing. And at that moment, a young Kamala turned into kind of a political activist. She decided, am I going to accept this and just stop playing soccer, or am I going to fight for my rights to play soccer? This isn't fair. And so she organized her first protest, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so she did get involved in that, and she's also was in Quebec around referendum separation time. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first got the idea to write and draw this comic book last August, when Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris to be the vice presidential nominee, and I was reminded at that time that Kamala had spent a few years in Montreal as a kid. I did some research, found out about the soccer story, but what also intrigued me was when I looked at the years that she was in Montreal, which was around 1976 to 1981. That included the years leading up to and including the 1980 referendum on separation in Quebec, and there is no chance that she lived in Quebec during those years and went to high school without really having that issue hang over her and being involved in political discussions. Like, it was such a huge topic for years. after the Parti Québécois came into power and the referendum was planned. So I felt like, oh, that's a really interesting backdrop to her own personal story. I also have to say I really liked the notion that back in those days, in the late 70s and in 1980, Kamala Harris must have become aware of who the Prime Minister of Canada at the time was. And of course, it was Pierre Trudeau, father of our current Prime Minister. So I really liked the idea of drawing at least one panel where Kamala Harris and Pierre Trudeau are in the same panel. And so that's in the book too.
That's great. Yeah, and she was there, like you said, in we'll call it the mid-teens. And that's when kids either are sullen and hide in their room, or they have an opinion on everything and anything under the sun, and they are not hesitant to let you hear it. So the discussions, like you say, around her high school must have been pretty intense if there was lots of Quebecois kids who didn't want to have anything to do with Canada and some Anglos who wanted to stay. It must have been quite a interesting time, I should say.
Well, also, I think because of the fact that Kamala Harris and her mom and daughter, or mom and sister, were not only kind of immigrants to Canada, they were newcomers. They were from the U.S., but Kamala's mother was originally from India. The three of them are Black and of South Asian descent. And at the time, as we kind of know from the history of that period, there was a whole pure laine, pure wool kind of conversation going on in Quebec, and the we side had a lot of the traditional white voters who had lived in Quebec for generations, and not all of them, but I think some of them looked on folks, newcomers like Kamala and her mother and sister, with a bit of skepticism, thinking, oh, this is the changing face of Quebec, and there was a lot of Quebec nationalism that didn't necessarily include people like Kamala Harris's family. So there's even a panel in the comic book that kind of gets at that of Kamala and her mother walking down the street during the referendum and feeling the kind of icy stare of a yes voter. And yeah, that was there's no doubt in my mind that Kamala Harris would have really felt that period of politics and would have felt and would have learned at a young age the effect that politics and political decisions can have on people's everyday lives.
Kaj Hasselriis is with us from Winnipeg, talking about his latest publication, Kamala in Canada, or Kamala au Canada, and it's English and French, written and illustrated by Kaj. You have a translator, Martine Bordelot. How did that connection come about? Did you know Martine beforehand, or what happened there?
I didn't really know Martine beforehand. So here's some info about me. I, for many years, was a CBC radio producer in Winnipeg. I was one of the producers on a national program called DNTO, the storytelling show with Suk-Yin Lee. And also at that time, Martine was a longtime host of the morning and afternoon shows on Radio Canada, the French side, in the same building as me. But she was on the 5th floor, I was on the 1st floor. I think we both knew who each other was, but that was about it. And then I left CBC a couple years ago, pursued cartooning and comic book writing and illustrating. And I put out a book during the 2019 federal election called Politikids, all about the childhoods of the 4 national party leaders at the time. And Martine heard me on French radio, because I also speak French, and she emailed me and said, hey, I think it's great what you're doing, and if you ever need a translator on any future books, I'm just about to retire, please let me know. So and I'm a huge Francophile, I love the challenge of speaking French, trying to get better at it. I love going to France and French-speaking countries, and so I knew I did want to make my next book bilingual, partly because there were so many parents and French immersion teachers asking for it, especially during the pandemic when a lot of parents were at home with their kids learning French, but they didn't have necessarily good French resources to give to the kids. And I also feel like the Kamala in Canada story is a natural to be bilingual because it's set in Quebec, and it's about a girl, an Anglophone girl, having to learn French. So, and a lot of my sales have happened in Quebec. I've sold a ton of books in Montreal, and I get a lot of fan mail thanking me for making the book bilingual. So I'm thankful for Martine translating it, and I think she did a great job. Plus, actually, she's from Quebec, and she lived in Quebec during the 1980 referendum. So as she was translating the comic book, she had definite opinions that she shared with me about that period and how I was portraying it in the book.
So you had like inside knowledge from an insider, as it were, when you're putting the project together. That's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Kaj Hasselriis is with us from Winnipeg. Now, you've been in Winnipeg all your life, except for times when you were traveling. You started out sociology grad. What the heck got you into journalism of all things?
I've always been a total news junkie, and a news junkie and a political junkie. I became fascinated by politics. I remember at age 9 when a city council candidate came to my parents' door, knocked, said that he was running for office. I was totally fascinated. I remember when I was 10, Geraldine Ferraro becoming the first woman ever to become a vice presidential nominee on a major ticket. I joined my first political party when I was 14, and I was always reading the newspaper, following the news. God, I remember in high school, Margaret Thatcher getting kicked out as Prime Minister of England. I remember the Clarence Thomas Senate hearings when I was in high school. And so that's partly what has spurred me on to create these comic books for kids about politics, because I know from my own experience that I was a kid who was totally into politics, and so I know there must be other kids out there, and I am learning that I'm learning that is true from creating and putting these books out into the world.
And especially at that 12 to 18 demographic, they're passionate one way or the other, because they're going to let you know what their opinions are in no uncertain terms.
Absolutely, yeah. So no, you're right. I did study sociology, got a degree in that from University of Manitoba. From there, went on to Ryerson University in Toronto, got a journalism degree, and was a journalist for many years. Yeah, at CBC Television, then at radio. Traveled the world as a freelancer as well, but I feel like the work I'm doing right now as a storyteller is an extension of my journalism. All the work I'm doing, Kamala's story, the Politikid stories, those are all factual. Those are all true stories that I'm illustrating for kids. And so it is in keeping with my journalistic background.
Well, you're talking to a retired radio guy here, so I know of what you speak. And my wife is on the town council here in our small town, so I got an inkling of that end of things too. Kaj Hasselriis, the book Kamala in Canada, or Kamala O Canada. What do you think, or what is your aim for having this book out there? What do you hope it will accomplish?
I hope it gets kids engaged in Kamala's Canadian story. I think it's remarkable that the new Vice President of the United States has what I consider to be quite close ties to Canada. She graduated high school here. I don't know of any other president or vice president who lived in Canada for any time, really, and certainly not for as many years as she did, and during such a formative period of her life. I think that's something for us to celebrate and for kids to know about. And after I put out Politikids, I kept hearing from parents and teachers that they said, what are you going to follow this up with? We really want kids to have role models. We want them to see leaders that they can look up to. We hope that they will be inspired by the stories of leaders to hopefully someday become leaders themselves. And I think Kamala Harris is a good role model, someone to look up to. And so I hope that kids will read her story, and when they see her on the news, they'll think, oh, she was a kid just like us, and maybe someday I can be just like her. And I hope that happens.
And apparently you ran for mayor of Winnipeg a while back. Do you have any other future political aspirations along that line?
I did run for mayor a long time ago. When I was just 32, I was a young activist here in Winnipeg. We had a mayor at the time who I did not like, and no one else seemed to be stepping up to run against him for re-election. So I did myself, and got 22,000 votes, which I'm quite proud of. That was 15 years ago now. I have stayed politically engaged, certainly, and I have stayed active. And I might run for office again. When the mood strikes, when the issue strikes, when there's a leader that I really feel like I want to get behind. It hasn't happened in these past 15 years that I have felt that compelled again to run for office, but we'll see. It is something I would still like to do, and I would love to serve at least one term in office just to see what it's like. I do enjoy working with people, helping people, building relationships, making connections, all the things a good politician should do.
And we are talking about Kamala in Canada, Kamala O Canada, with writer and illustrator Kaj Hasselriis. Where can we find it? Is it in bookstores or is it mail order? How do we get a copy or four?
Thank you very much for asking. Kamala in Canada is available for order online for just $10. And you can get it through the website kamalaincannada.com. And that's actually an extension of my own website, so you can look around for other books I've done. But the main thing to keep in mind, kamalaincannada.com. I put it out last October, and I've sold almost 2,000 copies all across Canada and many in the States as well. At least 700 or so of those books I've sold just since Kamala Harris's inauguration a month ago. So I'm super excited about the sales, and I've been getting a lot of good feedback, and I hope some of your listeners might want to order a copy as well.
Me too. That's why we do this kind of thing. It would have been probably not so nice if that Trump guy had won.
I don't even want to contemplate what that would be like, because I can't believe we all made it through the 4 years that we had to with him. And it's just such a relief to have Donald Trump gone and to not have him taking up space in my head every single day, because those Trump years are pretty overwhelming. And it's just good to have leaders back in the White House who I feel have the best interests of Americans in mind and aren't just thinking about themselves all the time.
Kamala in Canada by Kaj Hasselriis. You apparently some copies have been sent to the White House. Is that right?
That is not quite true, but the comic book is getting closer and closer to Kamala herself. I did mail her a copy last fall to her Senate office in Washington, D.C., where she used to work. I also sent a couple copies to her old high school, Westmount High in Montreal. I got a nice letter back from the principal thanking me, and they put the books in their school library. I sent a book to Kamala's best friend from high school, Wanda Kagan, who's done a lot of media about Kamala. She also sent me a nice thank you. But one of the really cool things that's happened just in the last few weeks is that the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa bought several dozen copies and handed them out in loot bags to dignitaries, diplomats, ambassadors, etc. On Inauguration Week to celebrate the inauguration of Biden and Harris. And the U.S. Consulate in Montreal has also bought a ton of books from me and they are sponsoring me doing a virtual reading of Kamala in Canada to 2 different classrooms in Montreal tomorrow morning, which I am very much looking forward to.
That's grand. It's Kamala in Canada, or Kamala au Canada, by Kaj Hasselriis, translation by Martine Bordelot. And do you think when Kamala Harris was in Montreal, she might have worn a Montreal Canadiens sweater once in a while, one would hope?
That's a good question, and that's the kind of question I'm sure she will get when hopefully she eventually visits Canada as vice president. And if she does a homecoming to Montreal, I'm sure it'll be all over the news, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the questions she gets when she comes up here.
That's great. Kamala in Canada. And what's that website again, please, Kaj?
KamalaInCanada.com. That's where you can order your own copy of the book.
Any other projects in mind, quickly?
That is a good question. I have ideas. I'm just so, at this point, I'm so busy selling these books still. Like, it just keeps on going. Like, it's just been overwhelming for me. I got it out in time for her debate with Mike Pence in October, sold a bunch of books then I sold a bunch of books after she was elected in November, and then it felt like there was a slight lull after the holidays, but then as soon as the inauguration hit, I've been selling, and every time I sell more books, I've got to mail them to people. I always include a little thank you note. I'm still riding the wave of this book, but please stay tuned. When the next one is out, I will for sure let you know.
That's wonderful, Kaj Hasselriis, and you'll have at least a 4-year run, if not longer, if she stays in vice president. She could be the president. Who knows? Because that Joe Biden guy ain't a young chicken anymore, so anything's possible.
Absolutely. No, she could be vice president for 8 years and president for 8 years after that. I could be selling this book well into the 2030s.
That's your retirement package right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Kaj Hasselriis, Kamala in Canada, part of his PolitiKids output rather. Thank you very much for your time today.
I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for inviting me to be on your program.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.